I was just going through the motions before, going working, coming home, drinking, going to bed, doing the same thing every day. I was happy just to be looked over and to be forgotten about, do my own thing. But now this has happened, I'm like, right, I'm in a position where people can look up to me. It's almost nice to be the person that people look at and they're like, oh, he's happy now. Come a very long way.
That's Seb Steel. A year ago, his leg was crushed under a forklift in a workplace accident.
My boot got caught in between the ground and the wheel of a forklift and basically just sucked me underneath it.
The brutal moment of Seb's injury was only the beginning of the immense mental and physical pain that followed.
I was scared to be alone in there because I was so low at the time. There was nothing I could do.
Surgery after surgery led to letdown after letdown, and when Seb finally got his wish of a leg amputation, it didn't go the way he'd imagined.
I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is just too much. Like I keep moving forward one step and then it felt like I was just getting thrown 50 steps back.
In the face of all that adversity, Seb now sees himself as a better man, proud of who he is and ready to inspire. Welcome to Young Blood, an award-winning podcast on a mission to make the mental health of young men a top priority. My name's Callum McPherson, I'm a journalist, and this is our platform to open up and share stories of what we've been through because we're not alone. Let's do it. Trigger warning, if you find anything spoken about in today's episode distressing, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Seb, who were you before the accident?
Well, I was a 19-year-old forklift driver who wasn't really going places anywhere. Did have a pretty bright future ahead of me when I was much younger, but I kind of threw that away pretty quickly to, party and have fun and whatnot. Just live my life a bit differently back then. And basically leading up to the accident, I was pretty tired all the time. Didn't help me in the long run, but yeah.
How did you see yourself?
I wasn't, really happy, but I was like, yeah, this is fun. Keep doing what's fun. But now looking back, it's just, massive waste of 2 years, and you don't really get that back, but you live and you learn,
But
I
you
guess.
couldn't really appreciate that at the time.
No.
I suppose nothing catastrophic's ever happened
Exactly.
to you before, and especially when we're young men, we think we're invincible. I think we've got all the time in the world and nothing bad's going to happen. It's not until something does that it sort of can shake up our perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It really does. It changes your perspective on life in my case, a very good way.
So where do you think you were sort of going at that time before the accident happened?
I struggled with depression pretty badly. So I, didn't really see myself living past, 23, 24 probably.
How far does that go back?
That goes back as long as I can remember, really. Started getting help pretty late. When I was about year 8 or 9, I was kind of, pushing it off. Don't really want to do this because, I was a boy. Didn't want to kind of admit that I was sad, which was pretty foolish. But a lot changed when I started to get help.
Anything in particular that you could point to through that time in your life, or was it just like a collective build-up, or did it seem to be just the way you were? Yeah,
so I wasn't good at school at all. That was not my thing. I'd accepted that, but it still kind of got to me a lot. Like didn't really learn how to read until year 9. Couldn't write, couldn't do maths, couldn't do anything. All I could do was really, use my hands, play sport, whatnot. Like it was.
So self-esteem wise, that made you feel like...
Yeah, well, I tried to pull it off as kind of like, oh, it's cool, I'm not trying at school.
Yeah.
I'm just not trying. Where really, like in my head, I was really flat, that people were kind of like, they'd take the piss out of me, and then the only thing I could do was kind of take the piss out of myself in a way.
As a defence.
Yeah, instead of being like, hang on, it's not nice.
Yeah, and if you don't try, then you can't fail.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Figured that if you tried, you'd fail, so you didn't sort of bother.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a long 3 years, I reckon, from about year 7 to year 9
But you had actually made some progress and ended up doing a bit better?
So I was moving forward slowly. I, went from psychologist to psychologist, just couldn't talk to any of them, couldn't figure it out. Got really frustrated in myself, which obviously made things much worse. Then I found a really nice guy that I'm still talking to this day, who really helped me get through lots and lots of things. But I reckon in year 9, I ended up coming out, telling everyone kind of my struggles and my issues. I posted on Facebook, and I kind of like posted it, and I was like, oh shit, like what have I done?
Yeah.
So then I was like, nah, leave it. I put my phone down and I'll go to sleep. And I woke up in the morning and it had like blown up. It had like 2,500 likes, heaps of shares, had millions of messages, which made me feel really good. But then I almost felt like I'd come to school and people would be like kind of looking at me differently and treating me differently,
like
and it
sympathy.
was just I wasn't like that. I was happy to, keep going the way I was.
You didn't actually want the attention?
No, yeah, that I didn't post it in the hope of getting attention. I just posted it because I just remember being so drained from kind of putting on a mask. I was known to, just take the piss, be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Played a lot of sports and stuff like that.
It's part of your process of trying to move beyond that.
Exactly. So it took so much to be able to post that. Yeah, I remember getting a lot of messages from people that I thought were the exact same as me, in the fact of they were just, lighthearted people, didn't realise they were struggling. But then you got hundreds of messages from just blokes that were like, yeah, no, I'm struggling big time as well.
Yeah,
and that was
powerful stuff.
Yeah, that was really amazing.
You'd never imagine it either.
I know, as a year 9.
It's always the case.
Like, I had like 20-year-olds texting me and stuff, and I was in like year 9. I was like, oh my God, maybe it was the right thing to do. So that was pretty cool.
So you'd already had a pretty in-depth experience with mental health by the time you got to the day of your accident.
Yeah, I was pretty depressed. I'd gotten to the point of like almost suicide multiple times throughout schooling. I'd self-harmed, all of that stuff like that. Pre-accident, I can see that very clearly now, that I could have helped myself a bit better. Probably could have came out earlier and instead of took the piss out of myself.
Once you met that psychologist and you'd been working with him, was it at a point where it was better, or you weren't suicidal, or were you still struggling that much right before the accident?
Working almost made me happy. So this guy I met when I was really young, and I was just like, when I first met him, I was like, oh fuck, like psychologist, here we go. Didn't give him the time of day, didn't give him anything. And he kept persisting, like every week, like, yeah, come and talk. Well, without him, I don't reckon I'd be here today. So that, I'm obviously very appreciative and thankful for his efforts to try and keep me going through.
But when you had a job, you had purpose. You felt like you were useful.
I would work so hard that nothing else was going through my head. I was working regularly 18 hours a day, just pumping out work in a freezer.
And then that's because you didn't want to give yourself time to think?
Yeah, I don't reckon I ever had free time while I was working. Because I wouldn't want to. Like, I know that how I'd feel if I would stop working, because I'd be tired, I'd be hungover or whatever. So I just keep on, kind of doing things, hanging out with my girlfriend or playing footy, just to kind of keep my mind off it. And it worked for a while. It was pretty healthy. Well, not healthy, sorry, but it felt good to me at the time.
Could be worse things.
Yeah, definitely worse things, exactly.
Yeah. So take us through the day of the accident.
Yeah, so I was a warehouse worker at my dad's trucking business, and I worked in a freezer, so I was freezing in there all the time. And I came in one morning, I was very tired. I reckon I'd worked a massive day the day before, and I'd come in at 6 a.m. the next day. Came into the cold room, and there was only like 3 people that worked there, or 4 people in the actual warehouse. So, if you're working a lot together, you get very close. So this guy was one of my best mates at the time. He's still one of my good mates. But I came in, said hello to everyone. My dad was driving a forklift in there as well. And I was just chatting to this guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like jump on, we'll go take you to where you need to go." And that was such a normal thing. If you work with forklifts all day, you don't think twice about hopping on the back of one and cruising along. But I was wrecked, and he was reversing down a ramp, so the ramps go into the back of the trucks, and he was reversing down that, and I was sitting on the back, just not thinking about anything, dangling my feet off the edge, and then my boot got caught in between the ground and the wheel of a forklift, and basically just sucked me underneath it. And it was, 5-ton forklifts don't go well on top of you.
How much of you went under?
So that went all the way, I reckon I've got scars all the way up to about here. The floor was all sharp metal going out like that, so it rips food off of the forklift wheels so you don't cross-contaminate and whatnot, and that pretty much just sucked my body, like all up there, all the flesh just sucked that into it. So that wasn't nice. And then...
Can you describe that moment once you realised what was happening? How quick was it?
Oh, it's crazy to think, like, it just instantly went under, and I was like, everything kind of went quiet, like just still in my head, and I was like, what's going on? And then I looked at my torso and I was under a forklift. I started screaming. I was like, go forward, go forward. And as he went forward, he kind of, I don't know, I think he panicked a little bit, obviously, so he made underneath you and kind of flattened the forklift. And when he did that, the wheels gripped onto my leg and basically just degloved all the way down to my ankle. So, just ripped everything off of the bone pretty much.
Can you describe the pain?
I can't really. It was, all I remember is just feeling uncomfortable, like so uncomfortable, like I didn't want to be there. My dad, they came running over and they had to lift the forklift off of my ankle, and my calf wasn't there. I got my whole calf removed. I had skin grafts.
When they lifted the forklift off, like, what did your leg look like?
So I was lying down because I was still kind of in the floor a bit.
Were you conscious the whole time?
Yeah, I was, and I remember, just feeling uncomfortable, and I didn't look at my leg because my dad was like holding me down, because it was just, once you look at it, you start panicking, which happened, and then he was holding me down, and I was like, Dad, I don't want to be here, just like knock me out. I don't want to. It's like I'm so uncomfortable, and it wasn't painful really, because all my nerves just got like fried, just chopped off pretty much. So the pain didn't happen too much later, and I was just a weird feeling of really, really cold, but then really hot, and it's just weird.
How were people reacting around you while they were taking the forklift off and assessing the damage?
Yeah, so it was, I don't remember much of this, but I've been filled in from, friends and dad and stuff like that. So they lifted it off and kind of started trying to get me out of the floor a little bit and make me a bit more comfortable. And they were all around me, kind of, I remember them all just like staring, not at me, like at my leg. And I was like, what is everyone looking at? And then I kind of just, like, my dad was holding me down, so I couldn't move. He pinned me down, and I just like managed to look, and I could just see bone. And then I started freaking out, and then everyone else kind of started being like, holy shit, this is real. Like, what do we do? And then luckily, I think I just yelled, call an ambulance, because I was like, oh my God. So one of my friends called an ambulance, and that we were working pretty far away out near Elizabeth. So that took, I don't know, I think 25, 30 minutes or something to get there. And the whole time...
Were you losing blood?
Yeah, losing, like...
A lot of blood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I started getting hell dizzy, like, what's going on?
Did you think you might die?
Yeah. I think I did die, apparently. Dad said.
Like you were unresponsive?
Yeah, like, just died. So, came back, and it was in the ambulance, and I woke up.
Like your heart stopped at some point?
I couldn't tell you. I've just broad, brief details of, you were not in a good stage. I went unresponsive in hospital. That was a drug issue that the hospital managed to stuff up with me.
Right.
But on the way there, I kind of came to again, and I think that's when everyone was like, holy shit, again, like, he's coming in and out, this isn't good. Went to the hospital, mum rocked up, she was crying, dad was just like in shock, what do I do? I didn't know what was going on because at that point they just pumped me full of anything they could. So I was feeling pretty good for the first time in a while, which was almost nice. And then I think I went into a very, very long miracle surgery where they did manage to save my leg, the lower half, but it was, as I said, I didn't have a calf. They'd removed all of that. So your foot doesn't work anymore. I had skin grafts everywhere, so it was all just gross and painful.
85% of the leg at that point was not there anymore.
Pretty much,
muscle.
Just gone, and it was just not. It wasn't a leg at that point in my eyes. I'd look at it and it just made me feel, depressed looking at it. Even when I was out of hospital, like people would stare at it and I'd be like, shit.
So it was there, but it wasn't functional.
It was there. I just had no use. Like it couldn't move my foot. It was just dead weight, and the nerves were all severed, so it just hurt all the time. And that was the worst part. Was being in like agony for 7 or 8 months. That really messes with your head, like changes your perspective on everything. So that was, I felt just lost for a while. And the amputation was kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel almost. So I was just really pushing for that, and they didn't really want to do that because they just managed to save my leg, which they were all pretty happy about. But yeah.
When you woke up from that initial surgery, did you know how long it had been?
I reckon I remember I woke up and I was, high as a kite, and I called my girlfriend and I was just talking shit. And then I just fell asleep. So I think the surgery went for a good 8 hours, 9 hours probably.
What about when you woke up from that sleep? What were you thinking?
I woke up and I was just thinking like something's not right. I don't feel like the drugs aren't feeling right. And I went just grey, like my face went grey. My body just went like dead. And I remember lying there and I couldn't move my arms, couldn't move my head. And then I started freaking out. I was like, what's going on? And I kind of looked over and mum was looking at me and she was like, oh, what he doesn't look right. So she called a nurse in who came in, and she was just clueless, didn't know anything about anything, unfortunately, which kind of caused me to go into unresponsive again, which was quite scary because my mum and my dad were both standing in the corner of the room watching as 10 doctors rushing around me, bloody putting tubes in me and, plugging me into wall sockets and whatnot.
So all of a sudden you were dying, basically?
Yeah, all of a sudden, I was dying. And I remember I blacked out, and the last thing I remember was the nurse that was originally there just said I don't speak English to the doctors, because they were can you plug, I don't know, it might have been life support or something like that, can you plug that in? She was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And then I just blacked out.
Not very reassuring.
No, not at all. That wasn't fun. But yeah, so that wasn't a good start to my little holiday.
But you woke up again though?
I did. Woke up, and that was bad because I woke up without majority of the painkiller medication that I was on, because obviously that didn't work for me the first time. So I woke up.
So they'd messed up the drugs. That's why that happened.
Yeah, that was on them big time, and still not too happy about that. But what can you do?
When did you first come to grips with what had happened to your leg?
Yeah, that sucked. That was one of the worst. At the time, it was one of like the worst moment of my life. Was kind of the doctor coming in, and he just like looked at me and was like, the chance of you walking again are very, very low. And then I had like 6 more surgeries or something. Yeah, like just back to back to try and, do everything they could to get my foot to be able to move. And that just didn't work. And it was just like let down after let down.
What about the moments when you're by yourself and you're looking at what your leg had become?
I was portrayed as a pretty like tough guy through school. Like, I was working and I enjoyed kickboxing and boxing and stuff like that. But I remember being on my own and all I wanted was my mum. I was just like, fuck, please. I just need my mum or my dad in here. Like, there's nothing else I want, because I was scared to be alone in there, because I was so low at the time, and I was like, there was nothing I could do. Like, usually pre-accident, I had depression and I got really depressed. I could always kind of, I could do something that would get my mind off it, but there was nothing in the world that could stop me from thinking about my leg. And obviously that's not healthy at all, and I just didn't eat I lost like 15 or 16 kilos in 3 weeks. What turned into a twig. Couldn't sleep because I'd just wake up in the night just screaming. It was just a horrible time. Not good memories from that one.
And what did you think about the whole situation at that time? Like, how were you viewing it? Like your future and these sorts of things?
It was so difficult to see a future at that. I was just so flat. I was like, if I'm coming out of the hospital and I'm like this, there's no point in me being alive anymore. Like, I'd prefer to be dead. And then I remember one day the doctor came in and he just said, we're probably going to amputate your leg next surgery. And I was like, at the time I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? And he just walked straight out, and no question. I was like,
thanks for that.
Yeah, 19-year-old chilling in a hospital bed, wigging out on ketamine. So I was just like, started freaking out. And then like Dad was there. I've never seen my dad cry, but we both just sobbed for hours.
Because to that point you'd thought that amputation would be the worst thing.
Yeah, it was just in my mind. I hadn't really thought about it. And obviously just that getting thrown on you is just such a massive punch in the face that you're just like, whoa, that's a permanent injury. Like, you can't regrow a leg once it's chopped off. Because then you go
to being the guy who's got one leg.
Yeah, exactly. And then people are staring at you even more, which...
Well, that's what you thought anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it was but I remember maybe a day after getting told, I kind of went on my phone and started, looking through pictures of amputees and their lifestyle and stuff like that. And slowly I was kind of like, I would prefer this because I can see myself having a future and whatnot. But then as soon as I wanted it, they didn't want to do it. So
right.
They're like, oh, no, you've got the leg, we'll keep it, and whatever. Wait to see in 6 months' time, and then we'll redecide.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, so a long time went by.
That must have been frustrating. And you were thinking that whole time that you did want to have it amputated?
Yeah, the whole time I was set. I didn't...
And that wasn't your call?
No, it wasn't my call, which was interesting. That surprised me that very, very much. But it finally, they started talking about it, and my mental health started improving.
So that 7 months period while you still had the leg there, you didn't want it there anymore by that phase, that must have been more difficult in another way, because now you've got this part of yourself that you no longer want to have there, and it's your body, but you're not even being allowed to.
It was
make
hard,
that decision.
man. It was so hard. Like, I can't explain it. It was just the worst. It was the most horrible feeling, not being in control of your own future, when like you're set on what you want and you know that that's the only way that you're going to be happy and you're not going to be in pain you know, you're going to be able to go out and spend time with your girlfriend or go out with your family without being drugged up out of your mind.
And you feel like your life's just on pause because every day
Yeah.
you wake up and that same
Still
problem's
there.
still there.
Yeah,
and there's no way of fixing it at this time.
Yeah, and it just sucked. Like, I'd go out and my leg looked mangled, like disgusting. And people would just like stare at it, and rightfully so now looking back, but I remember that used to make me feel like lower than anything, like almost like I wasn't a human. Like, people just like I was in a zoo or something, they were staring at me. And, you know, that really messed me up.
Did that make you not go out?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really leave my bed, just sit in bed all day. I'd only go out for rehab, which was painful, but, you know, I forced myself to do that twice a day, every day. You know, then I'd have doctor's appointments and stuff like that. But going out in public voluntarily, I wouldn't really do it. Unless I was wearing long pants, which was middle of summer, I wouldn't do it. So,
did you feel like you were in danger mental health wise in that period?
it was not really, actually. In hospital, if I could have done anything, I reckon I probably would have. But then coming out of hospital, I think I knew that I'd put so many people in a shit situation, which sounds weird, but like I'd mess with my mum and dad's head enough, and I was like, right, I can't be selfish now.
You also saw how much you mean to
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Like, everyone was kind of like, I had so many messages, like whatnot. I couldn't respond to all of them, but it was nice to see that, and kind of pushed me through that whole entire time. Just like thought it was almost selfish if I did do anything, because I had all of these people going out of their way to help me, and, you know, just that was a real.
And you saw
driver.
a future in being an amputee.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that was the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was like, I'm just gonna push through until then, and I'll be fine. That kept getting pushed back and back, and I was just like getting tired, and I was sick of it. And I remember, so I was meant to get a below knee, like down here, and that's completely different to an above knee amputation. It's almost like a different disability. So I was coming up to the surgery. We booked a date in kind of like a rough kind of time when I was going to be getting it. And about 3 weeks before my amputation was set to happen, my mum got a call. And I was kind of sitting there in the kitchen, and she was just like, hung up and just said it straight. She was like, you're not going to be able to get a below knee anymore. It's going to be an above knee. And I remember that hit me, and that was like, holy shit. Like, the one thing that I've been looking forward to and that has been getting me through has just been thrown away once again. Another letdown.
Can you explain the difference?
So, walking with a knee is obviously completely different than not having a knee and having just to use a mechanical knee. It takes like 60 or 70% more effort just to walk than it does a normal person,
right,
or able-bodied person, sorry. And it was just kind of like, all the doctors had all told me, because in the hospital I was like, yeah, let's like get it amputated. And they were like, if we get it amputated now, it's going to be an above knee, and you don't want that.
So that was your reason for,
yeah,
you thought, for not doing it back
exactly
then.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'll wait. I'll wait. I don't want an above knee, because all of the things they've told me have just been bad about it. Like, no one has said a good thing about having an above knee amp.
And you waited, and then they
did
it anyway.
Yeah, next minute they're like, yeah.
How come?
Above knee amputations are good. They get your calf down here and flap it around, so it kind of protects your bone from going straight through.
Right, yep.
And obviously I didn't have a calf to do that with, and I didn't have enough skin for them to make a flap.
Right.
So
they couldn't get it from anywhere else.
No, I couldn't do. I already had skin grafts everywhere at that point, so it was just like,
right,
you know, that really put things into perspective again. once
Because that was going to affect what you were able to do athletically.
Yeah, everything. That was going to affect anything, like
stuff.
Even just like getting around the house. Like it's a lot harder to just slap on a mechanical knee than, you know, kind of jump into a below knee. So I was kind of like really, really, really depressed at that just for about a day. And I was like, well, I remember going for a walk, not a walk, a wheel. And I was just like thinking, I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is just too much. Like I keep moving forward one step, and then it felt like I was just getting thrown 50 steps back every time I'd get a small win. But then I kind of woke up the next day and Jed Altschwager had been messaging me like crazy, and I just wasn't replying to anyone. I was just like, nah. And I replied to Jed, and he was like, let's go out, we'll get coffee, and I'll introduce you to Darren Hicks, who won a few gold medals at the Paralympics as a cyclist. And I remember meeting him and everything changed. Like, he walked over to me and I was just like staring at his leg in awe. I was like, oh my God, like that's so cool. Like, wow. And I was asking him questions, and slowly I was like, my life kind of kept coming back to me a bit, and I was like this is something that could be good. Like, there's lots of possibilities.
What were those guys saying to you?
They'd answer any question, no matter what, and it was just so good and like refreshing to get answers, because the hospital wouldn't give me any. No one would talk to me about it because no one really knew about it. And it was just amazing to talk to them, and just like little things. How do you get around the house? You get really good at hopping and stuff like that. It just made me feel like amazing.
What did they say about the above knee versus below knee?
They didn't sugarcoat it. Darren said it's shit. Like, it's not fun at the start. It's going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. But once you get through it, you can, nothing else is really going to stop you in your life. So you just keep going forwards. And I was like, it kind of stuck with me for a bit. And I was like, he's right. And like, shit's hard now as it is. Why not just, go above knee and try it out?
Yeah, like it's already been pretty hard.
Yeah, exactly. I was like kind of thinking, when he said that, I was like, oh, how much harder can it be? Then I got it amputated. This is moving forward a bit. So I got it amputated and I was like, yes, oh my God, I'm not in any pain. This is in hospital and I woke up, but obviously I was, ketamine in one arm, morphine, fentanyl, everything, oxys. And I was like, oh, it's sick. 2 days after my amputation, I was like, yes, I'm good. Take me off everything, I'm going home. Discharged myself after 2 days after getting my leg chopped off, which, looking back, was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, which is pretty big.
So that was against the recommendation?
Yeah, against the recommendation of the doctors. I just hated hospital from past experiences.
And you've been there a long time now.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, get me out of here. What I'm doing now, I can do at home. And I was in no pain because all the drugs were in me. So they took the drugs out and I was like, still in no pain. But my mum said, don't you leave hospital. Like, don't do it, because once the drugs are out of your system, you're in trouble. I was like, nah, shut up, Mum, I'm fine. Got home, laid down in bed, and I started feeling like someone was just stabbing my foot over and over again. And I was like, oh, this hurts. And then I was like, I don't have a foot. What? And I kind of looked at it, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was like, just in my bed screaming. Couldn't do anything. That was phantom pain. So
the brain remembers, but
it's there because the nerves remember it was there, and then obviously the nerves get chopped off. I can't even describe it because my brain won't let me remember what it was like, but vaguely it was just the worst pain you'd ever felt, and then it kept getting worse and worse until you just black out. And then you'd sleep for 3 hours, and then you'd wake up again and your brain would be tired, so it'd keep doing it.
Would the pain be there when you woke up again?
No, so I'd wake up and I'd be good again, and then I'd start getting tired and it'd start happening again, and I'd be like, shit, and it just kept getting worse. I'd always told myself, I was like, I'm not going to get phantom pains. I'd talked to a lot of amputees and they'd said, it's a mental thing. Like, you can stop it when, if you say you're not going to get them, you won't get them.
Okay.
I said I wasn't going to get them, I got them. It just threw me straight back into where I was before. And
so what did you do? Did you go back to hospital?
well, I refused. I was like, I was ready to die. I was like, nah.
Stubborn, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. I had like mad PTSD from just everything in hospital. I still go in there and I'm like just on edge.
No, fair
not
enough.
Comfortable.
Of course. Been through some horrible stuff in there, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then, thank God, my caseworker, she's amazing for my like work cover caseworker. She got me into the Flinders rehab facility, the new one for amputees, and I remember going in there. It was almost a breath of fresh air. It was like, okay, this place is really nice. All the nurses are really nice. And I'm not in much pain because I was getting some drugs while I was there, because it was also a hospital still. And that helped for a while, but then I started kind of, mental health kept getting worse because I was still getting phantom pains. And they were trying to teach me how to stop them with like mirror therapy and stuff, which is a whole nother podcast in itself.
Right.
But nothing was really working for me. And
this was constant throughout the day?
This only when your brain gets tired. So
Right.
once your brain starts getting tired, it just hits you, and then you can't sleep because it hurts so bad.
Okay.
So then you're constantly tired. You might sleep a bit. You'd wake up, you'd be like,
it's a very vicious
sick.
cycle.
Oh,
then.
it sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked so much, but it toughened me up a lot.
Yeah.
It kept getting worse and worse every night. I remember sitting in my bed. I'm pretty open now. I was sitting in my bed just crying. What is my life? I'm 19. A year ago I was out partying every night with my friends, having fun.
You'd had so much torment by this time as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It had gone for such a long time.
Yeah, and I'd always said amputation was a good thing. So in my head I was like, this is going to be a good thing. And then when it wasn't, it felt like I'd almost been betrayed. Like I was just like, oh, right, thanks. And then there's no way back from there, obviously. So I was kind of had to deal with it, which I did. I dealt with it as much as I could, and then kind of relied on the drugs to get me through for a bit. And once they stopped really working, because the phantom pain just kept getting worse and worse to the point where the drugs stopped working. And I remember lying in bed one night crying, and a nurse came in, and I was just like, just leave me alone. Like I just want to be on my own right now. And she like sat down. She was a nurse working on the amputee ward, and she pulled her pants up a little bit, and she was an amputee as well. I was just like, oh my God, what? And she kind of talked to me for the next few hours, kind of talking me through things, because I hadn't really seen an amputee like since I'd got the phantom pains. I hadn't seen Jed or Darren or anything. They just told me vaguely like, yeah, this will happen, try and do this. She left the room, and I was like lying there waiting just to get punched in the face by phantom pains, and it just didn't happen. And I was just like waiting all night. I didn't sleep. I was just waiting for it to happen, and it didn't happen because I just kept like waiting, and then nothing, and I got really happy. So I was doing good again. Then,
so at least you knew it was possible to not have it.
Yeah, so that kind of got that little point in time where I just didn't get any. And then it came back a bit, but I had ways to stop it, and it was pretty much just a waiting game, waiting for it to kind of...
And how has it been since then in terms of your capacity to be able to control it somewhat?
Yeah, good. So it goes for like 4 to 6 weeks kind of. So I was getting little bits throughout the day, and I'd push through it, and at night I'd dose myself up on oxy and, bit of this, bit of that, whatever, get through. Just kept doing that day to day, trying to just wait it out. And then I haven't had phantom pains in months now, and
Awesome.
It's so weird because like 1 minute, well, the techniques that I was doing, kind of 1 minute it'd be there and it'd be hurting, and then I'd start thinking this thing and it just stopped. And you just...
Such a weird thing to deal with.
Oh my God, it just drained you. Like, drained you like nothing you'd ever feel before.
Because you had to be conscious of it to try to switch it off.
You always had to be thinking, my leg's not there, so stop hurting. All the time, all day, every day.
And if it wasn't hurting, you were waiting for it to hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So it was... That phantom pain just ruled my life. Like that was all I was kind of around for, just waiting for phantom pain. And then when it stopped, it's just the best thing ever. Like when I could go out all day, stay up at night if I wanted to, didn't have to take copious amounts of oxycodone. Started slowly getting off drugs. I still am slowly getting off the drugs, which was just it was a win, kind of making me...
Then you got a staph infection.
Yeah, then I got hit with a staph infection. But that was kind of... It was almost not bad at that point. It was just like a little black dot that the doctor said, oh, it's fine. It's just a black dot. And my mum was like, doesn't look fine. And kind of ignored it for a while. But yeah, phantom pain stopped. I was happy, good, ready to get into a prosthetic. Staph infection. Got a big old hole in the end of my stump, which is now cleared up this week, which has been amazing. But
so now you can finally get a prosthetic.
Yep. So everything's kind of... This week has just been amazing. This, and then I
finally over the hump.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of,
it's kind of like I've just been fighting an uphill battle, and then I'm finally just...
And a battle that's taken so much longer than you thought it would.
I know. Oh my God. But so yeah, tomorrow's my birthday actually.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm getting, taking a step towards getting my license back, which is huge for me. Then the next day I'm getting a prosthetic fitting. And the next day I've got something else on. And then the week after I'm actually getting a prosthetic. So it's just like surreal.
Your life's coming back.
It's almost weird being happy. It's like, It's like, damn, something's wrong, kind of.
Oh,
but it's so good, so good, yeah.
Yeah, because far out, you've been through enough.
Yeah, I reckon it's time I have a little bit of a break, maybe.
Yeah. So what did help throughout this whole time? And I'm speaking mentally. Like, what did help and what didn't help?
My girlfriend was a massive, massive help. Without her, I wouldn't be here. No way. My mum and dad also massive help. They wouldn't sleep if I wasn't sleeping, and I didn't sleep very much, so they were having a pretty rough time. Dad was still working full time, trying to run a business that was getting kicked in the ass because some dickhead got run over by a forklift there a few months before. And then, little brothers and sisters as well, they kind of get looked over, but I found that it affected them big time as well. You don't really think about that as much because the attention was all on me, which I didn't really like.
What about them being there helped you?
Just having someone with me, someone that I didn't have to say like, yeah, I'm okay, like it doesn't hurt. Someone that I could just be like, my life sucks. This is the worst. And then they'd be like, shut up. You're gonna get through it. You'll be fine. Okay, just keep going. And then they'd make life really special in the little ways that you don't think about. And it was just, stuff like that helped me.
Did it bring you closer together?
Absolutely, yeah. Before my injury, I wasn't going anywhere. I was a bit of a drop kick, really. Drinking every single night, doing other things I shouldn't have been doing. Had no real relationship with my mum and dad anymore. I just worked with my dad, and then this happened.
So there was a bit of a rift there because of your attitude.
Yeah, I was living with my girlfriend at her house at the time, and then this happened, and just such a new perspective. I was like, oh my God, I've been such a dick to my family. Like, I haven't even seen them in months, and now they're all here 24/7 looking after me. And I was just like, I owe everything to my family. It's like, they've been incredible throughout the whole entire thing. So my girlfriend and, other amputees, but it's huge. It's a huge change when an able-bodied person becomes a non-able-bodied person in your family, and it can happen to anyone like that. So it's just weird to think about, really.
What did you learn about yourself?
I'm not as tough as I thought I was.
You're pretty tough.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned that looking at someone who doesn't look the same as you makes them feel worse than an able-bodied person could ever imagine. And that took me a while to kind of get over. I've slowly, now I'm like proud of myself. I'm like, yeah, I don't have a leg. I'm kicking, whatever. But before it was like, people would look at me and I'd just feel like I want to curl up in a ball. I was like, nah, can't do it. So, there's just little things that you don't think about that, and then when it happens to you, you're like massive part of your life. So yeah.
How's it made you a better person?
Yeah, I'm a much better person from what I was. I've been sober since my accident, pretty much. Don't drink anymore. I've reconnected with my family. I've stopped kind of not being aggressive, but if someone wasn't being very nice to me, I'm not trying to go out and fight them anymore. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, man, good on you. That's chilled me out a lot, really, I think. And I don't know, I just reckon I've changed my life a lot for the better, and I've put myself in a good position now to, live a good life, really.
Yeah, and it seems to me like you're very keen to live.
Yeah, it's almost weird, like, I still get days where I'm, flat, and I'm like, the whole world's against me, but...
You've had a few of those.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that sometimes. But, I get through that day and then I'm like, right, tomorrow's going to be a good day. Then I make it a good day. So, I don't know, you kind of force yourself to almost be happy with yourself in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not about being happy all the time. And what you've got now is all this evidence of times in the past where you were having a really bad day and you made it through that day, and then there was a better day ahead of that, and
exactly,
you know that'll come again. Doesn't make it easier when it's happening, when you're feeling really shit, but you know that you can get through it and that there's better things on the horizon.
And that makes life so much more like special as well. I was just going through the motions before, going working, coming home, drinking, going to bed, doing the same thing every day.
Yeah, not wanting to engage and be in the moment.
I was happy just to be looked over and to be forgotten about, do my own thing. But now this has happened, I'm like, right, I'm in a position where people can look up to me, and it's been pretty cool having people message you, asking questions, and if they're sad, I'll get a message, and it's almost nice to be the person that people look at and they're like, oh, he's happy now, it's pretty cool.
So you've come a long way.
I've come a very long way.
So what's important?
It's important to just step back and look at the bigger picture instead of, keep on looking straight ahead and doing what you're doing. Like, it's never going to hurt you kind of looking at other options and, just doing things that ultimately are going to make you happy instead of, in the long run, instead of in the short term, like just doing whatever you want and feeling like shit when you wake up the next morning. So it's, just important to, look at things differently.
And it's worth holding on even when it really feels like it's not.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a big part of everything, really. Shit goes wrong. You got to learn how to get through that, and I'm sure if I've done it, I'm sure some other people can do it as well, which is nice to know that people kind of think that when they're feeling like shit. But yeah, just kept going, kept digging, and somehow made it through.
Yeah, got a long way to go yet.
A very long way to go, but it's looking good anyway. I'm excited to work hard again, which I wasn't beforehand, so life's changed, I guess.
Yeah, well, you should be proud of the man that you are now, man.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Thanks for sharing that story.
Thank you. No, it's been a long story.
That's it for this episode. If you're getting some value out of the show, please help us out with a quick rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Everything we do is recorded in video, so follow Youngblood Men's Mental Health on Instagram and Facebook and Youngblood Mental Health on TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and please leave us a comment or send us a message if these stories resonate. We'd love to hear from you. You can sign up to our e-news through our website, youngbloodmedia.com.au. And most importantly, please share the podcast with anyone in your life who might need it. We're all about reaching as many people as we can. This is Youngblood. Thanks for being part of the mission. Catch you next time.